Hi, everyone. From me, Brent Graham. It's 8 o'clock on a Monday night and time for a special edition of the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. We're going to be talking under 20 World Rugby Championship, which is, of course, going on in the Cape at the moment. We spoke to Allan before the second round of matches, and now we're going to talk to him in the third round as well. We'll get his views there, and he's down at Craven Week at the moment. So, Al, what we'll do is we'll get your opinion on just any highlights from you on the Craven Week. We'll talk about that at the end of the show if any of the guys want to hang on.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good, Brent. Yeah, got a like a day in George today. Although quite cold, but yeah, always good to see a bit of Craven Week. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, welcome, Steph, the first guy into the live chat. Hopefully, a few of the boys will join us tonight. Look forward to the contributions as always. Just a reminder that you can subscribe to our newsletter. I'll put that scrolling down there at the bottom. At the bottom underneath the YouTube show, you can find the subscription box to the newsletter. But, Allan, let's get into the Under-20 World Rugby Championship. I must just tell you, first of all, a heartbreaking story for me. I knew the conditions were poor last week for the Matchday 2. I took a 44-1 accumulator, all unders. All of the lines moved, and 5 of the 6 arrived. Can you believe it? The one that didn't, I think, was played in the worst conditions of all. It was South Africa against Italy. I got under 57.5, and it ended up, I think, starting at about 50. But I thought there wouldn't be 30 points in that game, so bad with the conditions. But Italy scored 34 against South Africa. What a way to lose a bet.
Yeah, no, that was, no one saw, I don't think that result coming, but I'll be honest, I even, when I was watching, I made a note. At 14-0, I just said, I sent 2 messages to guys who followed closely and I correspond with a lot on rugby, and I said, that's game over. I just sometimes I get a sense in the game and also with that field, and you could just see the fluff that started was, he just looked like, he was out of his depth really. Leroux went off early with that concussion, and we just looked like all at sea. We weren't contesting their line out, but then letting them maul us, like it was bizarre.
Yeah, it was more, we were just slipping back. But that fly-off for me was huge because we had our fly-off in the man of the match the game before. And he wasn't even on the bench. So it wasn't like you could bring him on to sort of, when things clearly were going a bit pear-shaped, it wasn't like you could bring him on to sort of steady the ship. I thought the coaches made some poor decisions there. The selectors.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I perhaps I'll mention it, or maybe not in this forum, but even with, as you say, with Smith, I don't think he's, the best all-round player, but his goal kicking was flawless against Georgia, and then our sort of banker goal kicker was Khan. And when you can't even convert under the poles for those 2 points, which proved crucial at the end when we had to, you know what I mean? We and also it showed how poor we were, that at the end, again, a South African team against Italy, we don't back ourselves to take a penalty or a line out. We go for the 3 to try and get a bonus point. The white flag was waved a number of times. It was such a bizarre performance in conditions that, obviously they were terrible, but they were terrible for both sides. And the mistakes we made were shocking. Like the line out is atrocious. We picked 2 hookers in the squad who actually loose head props. There's 2 brilliant hookers in Calvert at the Sharks and Bacchus at Province, and at least they're going to run hard and they can throw the ball in the line out. I don't know. This is one of the poorest under 20 sides, I think, that we've had for a while. And they've been in camp for quite a long time. So it's quite baffling, eh?
Disappointing. But look, we're gonna talk about the games a bit more now. I've got the outright betting scrolling at the bottom. Well, what I want to do, Allan, I thought to start the show off, let's have a look at the 3 groups. I've just brought up the tables here. And let's just have a look at these, and we can sort of discuss quickly what each team has to do. So this is Pool A now. We've got France with 10 points. Obviously, they've been picture perfect. They've had 5 points from each of their first 2 games. We've got Wales on 7, New Zealand on 5, and, of course, Japan are totally out of the picture without a point. Now, this, we got France trading as even money favourites to win the tournament. I think you'll remember last week before Matchday 2, I said I'm taking the 9-4. I'm pleased to say I did take quite a bit of that. They have shortened considerably. Yeah. The reality for France, Allan, if I'm reading this correctly, because we'll look at the other tables now, but France just need to win this game to finish top of the log. And when I talk the log, I'm talking about when you combine all 3 tables. France just have to win this?
Yeah, so from here on in, the next two rounds are it's 1 to what's it? They're 12 sides, so it's 1 to 12 seeds.
Yes.
With the top three being the winners of each pool, and then it's just based on, once you have the top A, B, and C with each side's points, should I say, then the rest of them fall in line in terms of seeding with with the total points they've got in their pool.
Yes. So Farid making the point, all games are so important in this format, and I think that was the thing about that Italy game for the box. We couldn't really afford any slip-ups there. You just cannot afford a slip. But if we look at this pool, and we'll come to the individual matches now, but in France should beat Wales, they would then top the log. And I guess the thing is, New Zealand, the most they can get to is 10 points with a bonus point win over Japan.
Yeah, and I would say that's a foregone conclusion. I mean, they can't be as poor as they have been in their first two, and Japan aren't up too much. So, yeah, I mean, that sort of goes without saying that New Zealand will get to 10. France, I think will get a bonus point, and Wales, the last time they played when was it, March, France won 67-17. So, although this is an improved Welsh side, this France team is too much. Even if they rest Tuilangi and the boys, I think their pack is just frightening, really.
Yeah. Now, they're too strong. And we'll get into the handicaps now, but because the handicaps are set high, so you've got to take into account the fact that France only have to win the game to go through. But will they, for example, come out and absolutely hammer the Welsh? Just thanks to a lot more boys joining us in the live chat there as well. Let's have a look at Group B. And this is where New Zealand have a problem, Alan, because you've got England and Ireland, because of their draw, they're both on 8 points. Australia on 5. Now, if England beat Australia and Ireland beat Fiji, which you'd certainly expect the latter result, means New Zealand can't make the top 4, basically.
Yeah. No, that's it. And I actually expect that to happen. I think England will use Ireland sort of last 60, take out the first 20. They'll use the last 60 as a sort of a blueprint to beat them. They just pummel them up front, contest their line out, scrum them to death, and then just play pick and goes, really. And I think the English pack will be bigger and stronger. They'll bring back Chesham, Fizelau, and that Cunningham South, and then I think they should smash them up front, really, and that should be enough. Although, I think it will be tight. As you say, we'll get into the specific games. But, yeah, then I think New Zealand will be sort of playing for, like the minor placings.
No, that's it, exactly. Farid saying New Zealand could even still slip out the playoffs. I think they could, Farid, but they would basically need, if I'm not mistaken, because I think none of the teams in the other groups besides Group B can get past them on 10. So it would have to be a points difference debacle for them, I think. But look, I'm not even considering that scenario. I think France will definitely win, as you say, take it seriously. But let's have a look at the most competitive group. Now, we got one advantage here as South Africa in that we play last. We will know exactly what we need to do to top the group. You've got Argentina on top despite a big loss to Georgia. You've got Italy second after their big win against South Africa on 5, and South Africa also on 5, and Georgia on 4 points. This group is totally up for grabs.
Yeah, and we were so fortunate that Georgia did us a favor, because of that, I think we are in a good spot because these oaks are going to have to go hell for leather. They're going to have to come out with a response, and by definition, you would think they would win comfortably. And if you just look at our points difference with Italy, if say we do, comfortably beat Argentina, I can't see Italy sort of giving Georgia 50 points. You know what I mean? So I think we might sneak in at top of this group on points difference, only then to get pummeled by whoever we play in the next round.
Yeah, Farid saying, we could finish top. And as I said, the advantage the box will have is that they play last, which is unusual for round-robin games. I think all the other pools, they don't start at the same time, but they all kind of overlap each other, so it's not quite as easy to make that. But you might want to wait and see what the box have to do before before placing a bet there. But let's get into the matches themselves. I'm going to start with the first game up. I think it's a kickoff at about 11 o'clock. And here, this is an interesting one because, of course, this isn't South Africa's group. We've got Italy on 5 points playing Georgia on 4 points. And here we got the Italians.
No, this is our group.
Sorry?
This is our group.
Yeah, so I'm saying this is South Africa's group. Oh, sorry, did I say wasn't? Sorry, this is South. I meant to say this is South Africa's group, so it's an important game for us. But it's Italy minus 4.5 against Georgia, and here we got a total points line of 52.5. So let me ask you first of all. I know you're in Georgia at the moment, but can we expect improved conditions in Cape Town?
Yeah, well, this game's being played at Stellenbosch. I think it was originally scheduled to be at Paarl Gym. So what I've read is that they're giving Paarl Gym a break for this round, and then the Donny Craven and Paarl Gym are sort of switching places for the next round. So, yeah, the Italy games in Stellenbosch. Yeah, I mean, it's cold, but I think there's only not massive rain forecast. And I think I've mentioned to you before, the thing with Donny Craven is that it's very well grassed. So, it wouldn't get sort of as like a mud bath like perhaps the Paarl Gym field. So, yeah, and with it, being the early kickoff, they'll probably have the best conditions there for it. But yeah, 52 points, I think. Yeah, I think that, you could maybe take unders there. I think these sides, I think it's going to be very attritional from both these teams because, they've both got a chance to perhaps go a lot further than they've ever gone in this competition. So in saying that, though, actually, just in some notes I made here, they might, both of them in the last round, they might have played their final, in winning their respective games. So that's perhaps also something to consider, that they may have peaked before this game.
Well, I see Farid is saying Italy to win comfortably. Farid, I'm with you on this one. I was impressed by the Italians. I mean, it's very difficult if you look at this group to draw lines of form through anyone because, I mean, Italy were hammered. Okay, they were down to 14 men, but they were hammered by Argentina, and Georgia came out and basically kept Argentina to nil. So very difficult to draw a line of form, but I was impressed by the Italians. As bad as I thought South Africa were, I did think the Italians were full value for the win. And I think I think the Italians can beat this game, win this one by more than 5. Allan, would you argue with me on that one, or do you think I might be on the right track there?
Yeah, you've convinced me. But no, they were good. I mean, even though it's disappointing to basically lose to a gladiator type speech beforehand. I don't know if you've seen the videos of their captain stirring them up. You'd think that they'd need a bit more than that to beat us, but seemed to do the trick. And I mean, yeah, I mean they killed us up front. I mean, they were winning scrum penalties. Our line out was nowhere. And as I say, in our 22, okay, we didn't contest, but then we didn't sack them either. We just let them throw whatever they wanted to, and we just sort of gave the gain line to them, and then said, okay, we'll try and stop the pick and goes, which they didn't do that either. So it was just, it was
bizarre.
I
mean, I really thought they should have contested, but okay, so we're in agreement on that one, or I've managed to persuade you on that one that Italy can win a big. This next one is very interesting because we've got a high handicap here, Allan. And what I'm going to do is, while we talk about this one, I'll bring Group B back up here because obviously you've got England and Ireland here on 8 points. Now, Ireland minus 37.5 against Fiji. Fiji resisted a bit against England, but eventually crumbled and were absolutely hammered. Now, the thing for England and Ireland is they both want to finish top of the log because you avoid France then in the
100%.
You avoid France in the semi-finals, and you can see here it's basically going to come down to points difference. So Ireland have got to go out there and look for a big score, and of course England, they got a much tougher game against Australia, but they will also still have the opportunity, obviously, to score points. But looking at the betting, you've got Ireland's second favourite at the 9-4 mark. What do you think here? 37.5. Can the Irish beat this handicap? It's a very high spread.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, what did England beat them by? I think, wasn't it? It was 43-7 in the mud, which is, I think the scoreline was somewhere around there. So I mean, that's what, 36. And I think this Ireland, Ireland's a better side than England, I think, even though they drew. I just think that their game managers, their 9 and 10 are too good, and their loose forwards are really good as well as their hooker. So, yeah, I mean, I can see them killing them, and also, as you say, they're gonna come out firing, and try and get an early lead. Fiji always fade anyway in the last 20. Ireland can bring on their bench, so yeah, maybe I think they could potentially beat that.
Yeah, Fareed is saying, don't be scared of the big minuses tomorrow. And I also tend to agree with you, Fareed, because here we've got an Ireland side that's going to be coming out and just pushing very hard. And it's amazing. I always think back, I don't know, it might even be before your time, Alan, many years ago in the Super Rugby, the Bulls needed to beat the Reds by something like 70-odd points at Loftus. And I think they won like 92-3 or something stupid like that. I cannot remember. But the point being, when a team has that goal in mind, they're no longer looking at it to win. Yeah, they're no longer looking to win the game. They're actually saying our winning line. In this case, Ireland don't actually have a target in mind. They'll probably set themselves a target of 50 points or something along, because that will make it then very, very tough for England. But anyway, that's the Ireland game. Now, of course, the England game is taking place. I think it kicks off half an hour later. And this is an interesting one, Alan. You've got England here are effectively 9.5 point favourites for this game, and quite a high points line there at 59.5. England will have had the Ireland game start 30 minutes before, so I'm sure they're going to be keeping a close eye on proceedings. But what are your views here? Can the English win this by more than 10?
I think so. And this is the first game at Athlone, so you'd think that the conditions there should be. Well, these two sides will definitely have the best of the conditions at Athlone. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, look, I think England and Ireland, especially having played French in the Six Nations, will want to, and having seen them now, I think they'll want to avoid them at all costs. So, yeah, I think England are perhaps a better side up front for sure than Australia, and I think they could beat that, and perhaps make it very interesting in the last sort of 20-25 minutes of both those games.
Yeah, for Hendrik saying Ireland were a bit lucky against Oz. For Reed fancies England will beat this cap. I'm with you there for Reed as well. I do think that England are going to be too strong. Australia also have a couple of red cards to contend with. I don't really know the players that well, but I see the boys are coming in for England there on the handicap. And yeah, 59.5. I'll probably leave the points in this game and probably look just at the handicap. Let's bring up the next game, which is another big handicap. And what I'm going to do is just go back up to their pool. Is France up against Japan. I'm sorry, New Zealand first up against Japan. And here we got a handicap of 33.5. Now, Alan, this is an interesting one because New Zealand will actually know whether they got a top 4 chance heading into this game, because Ireland and England have obviously played earlier. And if both of those sides win, then New Zealand, I think technically they could get past France, but they would need like a miracle. I mean, France wouldn't be able to score bonus points. It would be so basically, if England and Ireland win, then New Zealand are out, and that might just change this game. What are your thoughts? 33.5 against Japan?
Yeah, I think either way. I mean, whether they're out or not, I just think, they've also been poor, but yeah, I think that. I mean, what Ireland are 38 points on the spread, aren't they? And I mean, I think
38. Yes,
sure, that's a tight one, but yeah, I think New Zealand will. I think New Zealand will pump them. Like, I mean, we're talking 45-50. Yeah.
All right, so confident pick on New Zealand. Just for Reed, you're making the point that New Zealand needs to give Japan a hiding, but I'm not sure that is the case, or unless you're looking at something different. I mean, as I say, if Australia and England win, they can't make the last 4. Obviously, but I suppose it could still improve their position in amongst the groups, the teams finishing 5th to 8th. But maybe just to elaborate on that a little bit. Henrik, always bet against New Zealand. Henrik, I'm with you. I haven't been impressed with New Zealand, but hell, I haven't been terribly impressed with Japan either. So I do think that New Zealand, Chris actually sums us up quite well. He goes, he's not brave enough to go for the Japanese plus. And I'd have to agree with him on that one. So big handicap there. But yeah, I'm going to have a wait and see on that one and see what the motivation levels are of New Zealand. Let's go on to another big handicap, and here we got France, who I think will, even at even money, if I wasn't involved in 9-4, I would tell you back France at even money. Only team I can see troubling them at all is Ireland, and I think they will beat Ireland quite comfortably. I'm expecting them to beat them in the final. Now we got France minus 29.5, which for those new to rugby betting means they've got to win by 30 points, and we got a total points line here of 63.5. Allan, are France going to win? Are France going to win this one going away? Don't worry about too much about the points, the spread at this stage, but do you see them winning this one comfortably?
Yeah. Again, I haven't, to be honest. I perhaps should have done my homework a bit better, but I haven't. I haven't seen the team for this, but I would expect them with perhaps 1 foot already as the first seed. They might rest a lot of their guys like they did against Japan. Like, that Tuilangi obviously is a huge player for them, and some of their loose forwards they might change around. But yeah, I think they, as I said in the last game, I mean, they won by 50. And although evidently Wales have improved in the last few months, I still think France are so much a better team than this Wales version. I mean, Wales were struggling for quite a while against Japan before they pulled away at the end. So that's perhaps more indicative of what this Wales side is like, rather than looking at sort of them leading against New Zealand, which now we've at halftime, which we've now seen, this New Zealand side isn't that great. So, can they do it? I guess they can. It just, I
think Chris actually sums it up quite well here. He goes, France all day long if they wanted it. Yeah, if France wanted, I agree with Chris here. If they want to beat Wales, they can probably beat them by 45, 50 points if they come out firing. But there is a chance that they might just step off the gas at some stage. But still, I just think what we saw, the fact that Wales struggled against Japan, the fact that France put Japan away with absolute ease. If you're looking, perhaps of any of the groups, I'm prepared to look at form lines here and say, irrespective, actually, I think, of whether they really want it or not, I'm actually on board with Faridi. I think that France are going to beat this handicap. And I think even if they have, I think they've named a fairly strong side. I don't know all the players in that, but I did see some people comment on Twitter that it was a fairly strong side. And I think that France are absolutely going to hammer Wales as well. I'll be happy to jump even on a big minus there. Let's move on to the next game. And while I'm let me quickly go down now to our table. Now, of course, Italy would have played Georgia early on. So South Africa will know exactly what they got to do on this one. We are minus 9.5 point favorites, which means bookies, if you back South Africa, you need them to win by 10 points against Argentina. And points are 57.5. And Allan, for me, this is a tough one because I didn't see the Argentina game against Georgia, but clearly they were woeful. South Africa were woeful against Italy. Yeah, based on Argentina's opening game against Italy, yes, against 14 men, but I actually made Argentina big runners. I can't back South Africa to win by 10 or more based on what I've seen. I'm leading Argentina here.
Sure. I mean, we, having looked at the side now, that I think in the backline for sure, we've brought back 3 of our best players from the first game in Smith, the fly-half, Hooker, the centre, and Kunene, the fullback. But, I mean, whether we can get enough good ball up front, Hienis is in, massive tight head from the Sharks, so maybe that'll prevent a lot of the tight head penalties we conceded. But we've still got else in at hooker and Kotze, or that's the only other option to come off the bench. So I don't know. The loose trio also doesn't give me huge hope that Van Renen's back in. I thought he was shocking again in the last game, just gives away stupid penalties. Beerts as well, the 8 was terrible. So I think Argentina, as Henrik said there, I mean, Argentina can win. And I mean, we must also be careful not to just be, blindly patriotic and say, oh, well, South Africa have to beat these oaks. I mean, that's what everyone would have said about Italy. And, we actually got put away really by them. take out that Marcus's try. It's a solo effort. What else did we really create? You know what I mean?
I couldn't believe that try.
So
Screwed my unders.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think we're gonna have a hell of a battle here. And
the guys in the
you got that Latin thing with the RGs as well, though. I guess showing the worst of themselves against Georgia by not even scoring a point. So,
and I see a lot of mention. Sorry, Al, I think my Wi-Fi is playing up badly. So apologies if I'm talking over you sometimes. I think you've stopped, and then it's my Wi-Fi jigging here. But I see the guys in the live chat are talking about the fact that they couldn't score against Georgia, and I mean that is woeful. But I don't really know. I mean, Argentina potentially also may have rested a few players that game. And I mean, yes, they played up against a 14-man Italian side, but they looked pretty impressive in that game to me. So I'm certainly not as confident as the other guys on the box here. I think Argentina can certainly push them all the way and possibly even win the game. But here, Alan, here's a bit of an interesting take for you, right? Now, these two guys, both teams, I say South Africa know what they need to top the log, but Argentina will also know what they need to top the log. Now, assuming Italy finish on 9 points or 10, and I'm saying Italy, but it could be Georgia, but let's assume both of these sides need a bonus point win to get to top the log, right? Say Italy get a bonus point and win and go to 10. Then these sides, irrespective of points difference, they need to get up there. Will that change the way they play? In other words, are we going to see one of those games where the 57 points gets gobbled up because the first priority on both teams is actually going to be to get the 4 tries, and then they're going to worry about winning the game? Or am I reading way too much into this?
Yeah, well, no, I don't know. I think for us, the benefit for us is again similar to I think these previous rounds where there's such a big time difference between the two games that we'll can go into the warm-ups and whatever knowing what we need to do. I mean, they can have lunch knowing what they need to do. Do you know what I mean? So their attitude could change a little bit in terms of that. But I don't know. As I said with that Italy game, this African side just doesn't look like they can chase a game. If Argentina start well, I mean, the nerves could come in hugely for the side. As I said, perhaps on the previous show that I was on, this is a team that's very untested, Brent. They all guys who've come out of COVID and things like that and have only really played under 19 and under 20 rugby when the only oaks who go watch are, their families and their girlfriends and things like that. So they play in front of 50, 60 people. And now, the pressure's really on in a tournament where, people must send them messages on the journey to greatness and all this. And I mean, they've just lost to Italy. So, and I think another thing indicative of the shambles that this team's in, actually I saw on Twitter yesterday, Carl Brown, the ex-Springbok Sevens captain, asked, wanted confirmation of whether they're playing at Paarl Gym or at the Darnie Craven. And the Twitter page, I think, said Paarl Gym, and they're actually playing at Athlone Stadium. So, I mean, the Junior Springboks Twitter page doesn't even know where they're playing. So that perhaps tells you a lot about how, in disarray this team is at the moment.
Yeah, that's for sure. So look, I must say I'm leaning Argentina on the plus here. I couldn't trust the South Africa side, and I actually I didn't see the Argentina game against Georgia, but I was quite impressed with them in patches against Italy there. Right, that brings us to the end of the games. I think I'm just going to quickly run through and tell you what I think from a betting perspective. I like Italy to beat the handicap, the -4.5. I do think Ireland and England will both beat their caps as well against Fiji and Australia. New Zealand, yes, they should beat that cap against Japan, and France on the minus. I'm leaning all the minuses. Well, I'm leaning quite a few of the minuses. All of the minuses, in fact, other than the South Africa game, where I do think that Argentina can push them. Any thoughts from your side, Alan? I know you're not a massive punter and more follower of rugby, which I sometimes really envy. But if I had to ask you of what we discussed here, what sort of stood out for you?
Yeah, at the risk of concurring with you, no, I agree. I think Ireland will annihilate Fiji, and what was the other one?
England Australia or
New Zealand? Sorry, New Zealand. I think will annihilate Japan. So I think those two, I think you can get quite stuck into and just enjoy the game. I think they might even wrap both those up by sort of half time-ish. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to definitely get involved in an accumulator, which I will post on the Good for the Game forum. Hopefully this time I can get the 40-1. I don't know if it'll be 40-1, but hopefully this time I won't be beat by one leg. Let's see any final comments in the live chat. The RGs could water in the rain. So I'm all with you there, Fareed. But thanks, TM Systems. Yeah, we'll see what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm quite excited. Of course, I've got Tour de France as well. And on that note, if you are a Tour de France punter or you enjoy the Tour de France, then look out, subscribe to the channel. My preview will be uploaded. Hit the bell and you'll be notified when that'll be uploaded. I'm going to try and get that one on tonight. But Allan, before I say cheers to you, you're down in Craven Week at the moment. I see a big win, and that's actually why I put my Province top on. I saw a big win for Western Province today at Craven Week. Anything that stood out for you on day one? The standard of rugby, any particular players put their hands up?
Yeah, I think the standard of rugby was quite good, really. I think quite a big surprise with EP beating Free State 26-23, although Free State only had 7 of their Greyblum guys starting. The EP side I thought was the squad wasn't the best. So I was expecting them to take 50-60 there, really. So that was quite a big shock. And then the Province B team lost to the Sharks. They just started poorly. The Sharks' backline was really good. The centre Riddle from Michaelhouse is potent, but he's going overseas. And then their back three were also really elusive on counter attack. Their loose forwards as well smashed the Province centres and were pretty physical. That's Kadira from Maritzburg College and Kanene from Hilton. And then, in the final game, Province beat the hosts, SVD, who got a very, very strong or very heavily laden with Outeniqua players who are probably top 5 in the country this year. But, they created quite a bit. SVD, their back three ran from deep well, but they just, as soon as they got into good positions, they would knock the ball on. And Province were just clinical. They fly off Kyle Smith from Paul Gym. I think there's no doubt he'll be the SA Schools fly off. He controlled the game really well. His distribution's excellent. His kicking game's good. Takes the ball to the line well, strong, can tackle. The Province loose forwards are really good. They won very, very convincingly, 42-12. And the 12 was somewhat flattering to SVD because they scored, in the last minute. It was 42-7 going to the last minute. But
that was the fly half. That's Province, a little bit of the game I saw. Hey, the fly half scored for Southwest Districts.
Yeah, right at the end. Yeah, they just had numbers out wide. So the main game will be Province Sharks on Wednesday, and then the 2 big games tomorrow. The Lions and the Bulls are separate, so I think they will both win their games. The Lions have got the Pumas and the Bulls have border. So it'll be Lions, Bulls on Thursday. I would expect to see who will meet, I think, Province in that unofficial final on Saturday. So, still a lot of lacquer rugby to look forward to. And, the weather looks like it's going to hold. So, it's quite cold in the morning and in the evening, but the days have been quite good. Not that it takes much for me to get sunburned, but, I think I even got a bit sunburned today.
Excellent, Allan. We'll look forward to watching your tweets and that on Craven Week. And enjoy the rugby tomorrow, everyone. I'm going to be posting some more bets on the forum there. And aside from that, I am writing a preview as well for World Sports Betting. So I'll do that straight after the show as well and get that up. And that brings us to the end there. France at even money. If you're not on yet on the outright, I think you're okay to take that at even money. Allan, good having you on the show. Just a reminder quickly, I didn't mention at the start, if guys want to subscribe to your newsletter and that, there is a link down below to your weekly blog that comes out, or I'd say weekly, but your regular blog that comes out on school rugby. And I guess you could have a lacquer one at the end of Craven Week.
Yeah, I'm busy with one now. I'm gonna try and have a bit more frequent content for the next sort of 2 months. Capitalize on the last bit of the schoolboy rugby season. But Excellent. Lacquer to chat as always, Brent, and Yeah, unfortunately, the Craven week will have finished tomorrow, so I'll have to watch the baby box tomorrow.
Excellent. That's at Jackal for Life. Allan Schulz, thanks very much for coming on the show, mate. We'll chat to you soon, probably ahead of the playoffs. So thanks to all the guys in the live chat. Contributions always appreciated. Let's hit those bookies.